This week, I made the worst painting I have ever produced. I looked at the blank canvas with the confidence of a Silicon Valley tech bro announcing a revolutionary AI product, skipped every sensible step in the creative process, no sketch, no color study, no planning of any kind, and deployed directly to production. This was the outcome, or shall we call it a visual war crime that has now permanently lowered the property value of this room, and in that sense, it has something important in common with several billion-dollar data center projects. Both appear to have been produced under the working title LOL 2026. I have deliberately left it hanging behind me for the duration of this video because if I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes criticizing billion-dollar strategic failures, it seems only fair that I am judged under the watchful gaze of one of my own. The people closest to me were not sufficiently upset about this monstrosity, so I'm going to need the perfect strangers of this audience to endorse my retirement from visual art. I trust you'll be honest. The comments are open. Please be brutal. As evidenced by this painting, my ego is currently as inflated as a tech valuation, and it definitely needs a pin. In this video, I'm going to cover 3 stories that on the surface have nothing to do with each other. A tech CEO's 20-minute meltdown on live television, a billionaire accusing the Pope of working for the Chinese Communist Party. Why don't we go find his meltdown? What a nightmare. Can't get to the point? I guess because it's pointless going on. Followed her to the station.
Electricity is the biggest energy theme in the 21st century.
We really are entering a new age. You need to balance supply and demand.
Join us right now exclusively at the table, Alex.
To the station.
Founder and CEO and CNBC's Sima Modi, who covers Palantir, joins us and tell us about the deal with NVIDIA. There's so many things I think we all want to talk about, but let's get to the NVIDIA deal first.
Because I have so much respect for NVIDIA and Jensen Huang, I'm going to try to keep this more adult than I usually do. But the truth is, if you want to know how this came together from my perspective, there are a lot of technical issues. Who controls the models? Who controls the weights? Who controls the value of your business? We're sitting on critical infrastructure across America, Ukraine, Israel. Everyone who uses LLMs on the battlefield runs on top of our ontology. And our clients are just, to say they're unhappy with the Frontier Labs is to say I'm welcome at the Berkeley faculty. It's like there's just a level of discomfort and loss of trust that also made it really, really...
Okay, unpack that. What do you mean by that?
Well, you have... Okay, so when you're using large language models, at this point, everyone technical realizes they're like a critical resource. To make them valuable in an enterprise like battlefield context or regulated context or manufacturing, you have to have what's called an application layer. We have this thing called ontology that now everyone's copying, but de facto, it takes a large language model. It makes it safe and useful and precise. So safe because it doesn't touch your unlearning data, safe because it prevents...
In case you didn't hear that, let's play that again.
Oh, you have... Okay, so when you're using large language models, at this point, everyone technical realizes they're like a critical resource. To make them valuable in an enterprise like battlefield context or regulated context or manufacturing, you have to have what's called an application layer. We have this thing called ontology that now everyone's copying, but de facto, it takes a large language model. It makes it safe and useful and precise. So safe because it doesn't touch your unlearning data.
If you didn't, just in case you missed it.
Well, you have... Okay, so when you're using large language models, it's like at this point, everyone technical realizes they're like a critical resource. To make them valuable in an enterprise like battlefield context or regulated context or manufacturing, you have to have what's called an application layer. And we have this thing called ontology that now everyone's copying. But de facto, it takes a large language model. It makes it safe and useful and precise. So safe because it doesn't touch your unlearning data. Safe because it prevents the large language model from caching your data and replicating your business. Safe because it doesn't transfer your IP of how to fight, secret data, top secret data, or in a clinical context. So the general way these things were sold, and again, these people are, Sam and Dario, there's nothing more fun than debating Dario in private. So I'm not throwing shade at them, but something has gone completely wrong. And the basic view among enterprises in this country is I'm going to chillax and waste my time with tokens. I'm going to get no value, and they're going to get my IP.
Now that sounds like shade.
Okay.
Though. And not just shade, it sounds like if you're saying these...
No, sorry. This is reporting.
Okay.
And this is reporting that I've literally, against my own interest, called... These are like, I'm profiting from this, right? So the reality is, you may not like us at my former school, Haverford, or Berkeley, but enterprises in this country trust and love us, especially ones that are involved in critical infrastructure, both public and private. Okay, so I want for those countries, we're coming up to July 4th, I want for us and our friends across the globe to have the very best tech resources. In fact, the whole secret of Palantir is the forward deployed model, the products that have been 5 years ahead. You know, you've been with me for a long time. Everyone said FDEs were services. They said we don't even know what an ontology is. That's the only thing people talk about now. The secret was we delivered the best things for the warfighters. Those warfighters have serious trust issues, but it's not just the war vis-a-vis Frontier Labs. Then you have my enterprises in the private sector who have the same issues. Like, why would they get access to my data if they're going to build my alpha? Why wouldn't I control the weights? And that's where you get this partnership. What aligns me with NVIDIA, and I think is what the technical customers want, which is control over their compute, their models, their data stack, and their alpha. They want to know they own the means of production. It's not being transferred to someone else. They're not interested in some fake deploy co that somehow is deploying tokens that transfers the alpha to a third party. And the jig is up. And so we have to figure out a way, our products are agnostic. We now sell a product to customers that allows you to switch from model to model and we're completely agnostic. But we need to rebuild trust. And that trust is going to happen where everyone gets to ask and answer basic questions. Who owns the data? Where is it cached? Are the prompts secure? Is this being transferred to you? Are you being okay? If it was so valuable, let's say I can make you $1 billion tomorrow. Wouldn't I say, I'll make you $1 billion and I want 30%? Why are they charging for tokens if it's so valuable?
So then, Alex, if the key, from what I'm hearing you say, is a secure, American-born, open-source model, how quickly can your model compete with the frontier AI models in terms of reasoning and agentic AI tasks?
Okay. What I am claiming, obviously slightly true but slightly self-centered, is it's the model plus an application layer plus compute. It is really all three. So in our jargon, it's the value, the reason, just look at our financials. The reason why everyone is chillaxing with bad financials and growth while losing money is the client refuses to pay the true cost. The two places that actually make money, like profit, free cash flow, are our application layer called ontology and compute. Okay, what I am not just claiming, we can take an open model and in the classified or non-classified context, get it to the point of a frontier model, but you control the weights. So what is the true cost? Not just what you're paying. The true cost is is what you make minus what you lose, meaning the value of your business. But we can get the frontier application to be exactly the same as a frontier model without the risk of transferring the alpha of your business to another. By the way, you could do this with a frontier closed model too, but then the clients have to be able to ask and answer very basic questions. Are you keeping the data? Are you going to enter our business? What do you in the classified context? When the Department of War goes to you and says, "I need this application," Do they get to control the weights to do it, or do you get to control the weights? Are we really going to outsource the battlefield of this country to the consensus view in Silicon Valley? That is effing insane. And by the way, every single enterprise in this country in private, a lot of them don't want to speak in public because it gets outsourced to the neurodivergent crazy person that apparently is on drugs, the one thing I don't do. Okay, so that's my role. But I'm telling you, in this country, at every single enterprise I deal with, these people are livid. They're like, I am paying for tokens that create no value. These people are stealing the weights and alpha of my business, and they're creating a wealth tax that does not help the poor. It just punishes, starts with the billionaires. Every single person at this table is going to be paying a wealth tax only to punish us. And the reason for it is because these models have been completely irresponsibly oversold. And the sell is, it's dangerous for everyone, which is why I can give it to all your adversaries, but I can't give it to the Department of War, or I can't safely give it to an enterprise in this country without being certain that the alpha of that business could transfer to this model tomorrow, i.e. I have no business, no job.
You sound pretty angry.
No, this is the voice of American business.
He doesn't sound angry to me.
And I'm telling you,
Gosh.
it is absolutely a problem for this country because we are on the cutting edge of every single AI technology. But if you're going to triply oversell something, and by the way, the enterprises are just tired of it. But by the way, just a minute. I want everybody watching this, to test what I'm saying, especially investors who think somehow this is working.
All right. I don't think he was angry, but that's the difference. We got to remember how women hear men and men hear men. Or maybe I just don't know how to hear men. I didn't think he was angry. I thought he was adamant. I followed her to the station with my suitcase in my hand. Oh, yes, I followed her to the station with my suitcase in my hand. Oh, it's hard to tell, it's hard to tell when all your love's in vain. All right, let's go with the prices. While we're waiting for that to sign in, our position, your position in Railtown, according to my, as you know, this isn't audited and it's not 100% guaranteed, but I try to do my best. 22,747,000 shares, 480. 22,747,480 shares. Pretty fabulistic. Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. And I think you're about, in the second half of this year, it's, if you're like me, you're a little bit tired of waiting to see a sign, but that's what we have to pay. That's what we have to pay. But I think you're going to start seeing your reward phase. I'm not saying it's going to be all in 1 week. I'm saying it's going to start, and then it's going to be an upward march, not uninterrupted, but it should be quite rewarding for each of you who own essentially 23 million shares. to repeat myself, when that goes to $10, you don't think the charm boys are going to figure out they can come take some of that money? Particularly the ones that are pretending to be your friend. That's a lot of squid, as they say, at certain luncheries in Knightsbridge. All right. Let's see where we are on the prices. Railtown is 27 cents, up half a penny. Finger motion is up 2 pennies at 41 cents. You can no longer do a 2-for-1 split, but I tell you what, you can get more shares of Railtown by flipping out a finger now than you're going to be able to in the future. So do it. Finger's not going up. Finger's going to 30 first, and then it'll go to 20. They'll do a reverse split, and then it'll come down. I know they've got 180 days to try to fix it. Good luck. Good luck. NRGV is up 14.5 cents at 4.185. They got debt, I think, coming due in August, but I might be wrong. It might be next August. Look it up. Northwest Bio, of course, they have a cure for brain cancer, but why shouldn't it be shorted with all the rest of them? You know, as Ham always says, the Borough Park boys, that's what I'm saying. They never get cancer. Yeah, and I guess that's about it. I thought I had total metals here. Let me look for it. Let's just see where Nixie is. It's up 5 cents at 156.99. I would stay away from Nixie. Now, they may be in the middle of a manipulation that gives it a short squeeze-ish pop, but do you really know how to play it? You'll come back to me later and say, hey, it went to 8. But if you owned it, would you know when to sell? I would say only you can judge your own expertise. But I would say as an outside observer, no, you don't know how to trade it. I'm not judging you. Nobody does, because you're not sitting at that darn computer. You don't have the inside manipulation news flow. You have the tertiary, at best, information that allows you to be one of the catalysts rather than one of the beneficiaries of the stock going up. All right, so it's 1:30. That means I got to figure that out. I've got 2.5 hours. I may or may not have enough to fill out 2.5 hours. But I just showed you the Palantir guy, and what I took from it, I didn't think he was upset. I certainly think he's full of himself. But that's the nature of many men and women who end up being so-called leaders. They have to have a lot of self. He seems like a highly intelligent guy, although I don't need him to tell me that. That's never a bonus in my opinion. And before I go down what I want to show you, let's just look at the volume. Wow. The volume on Railtown, I see. No, that's Finger. Sorry. I didn't mean to push Finger. The volume on Railtown is 23,082 shares. In other words, 23,820 shares. 26.2, 3,000 by 5,000. So it's 26.2 by 27.12. The high on the day, 27.02. I really think, and I ask people, just like you do, I need my hand held every now and then. What do you think the stock's going to do? And my own view that I've chosen is that I think Railtown stock, once news starts breaking that has some purchase, that has a bite to it, I no longer think there's going to be a battle between the high frequency traders and the buyers. But that's a possibility. But I put the probability that this stock immediately moves in dollars, maybe in half dollars, but in dollars, up to over 5. And once it gets over 5 with volume and the bid's over 5, I think it could easily double from there. And I think it's all going to be a march of I don't know what are those brigades? The fire brigade or the what's the group that fought the Zulus? It's gonna, or the march in. Anyway, this is a very deliberate march, and it's going to want to know. It's going to know where it wants to go, and it's going to get there. That's my opinion. All right, let me start going through whatever I have here. And I followed her to the station with my suitcase in my hand. Oh, yes, I followed her to the station. So sad and lonely. All right, so I think I'll go through these quickly because I can't remember if I showed them to you. But these are mostly things Dr. Tom Core liked. He liked the Buzz HPC Bell Canada Cohere post by Vladimir Prodnatovich. We're building a full stack Canadian-owned AI platform powered by 2,304 NVIDIA Grace Blackwell GPUs and a $220 million infrastructure deal. And he's liked these kind of posts quite a bit. All right. He also liked this, Addison Wiggin, who I used to get his letter. No investment boom in the last 200 years has climbed this steadily or steeply. We're 3 years in. Alphabet, Meta, SpaceX, all tapping debt markets just to keep pace. Multi-trillion-dollar companies raising capital is a subtle but important shift. Every industrial revolution rewards the companies that use the expensive new technology more efficiently, not the ones spending the most on the technology. The second half of 2026 will follow the same pattern. So here you have, I think it says canal mania. Then you have the roaring 20s. Then you have railway mania and the dot-com boom. So he's given you all these. The canal mania, he's left out the South Sea bubble and the tulip bubble. But particularly the canal mania went to great highs and then kind of really crashed. The roaring 20s went high, but I guess as you look at it in a stretched out way, it just became a drawn out decline from the highs. But you know, when you look at the dot-com boom and the railway mania, they're all kind of flat. But they had real crashes. So anyway, AI, you see it there in the red, how AI boom compares with the boom bust cycles of the past major innovations. So every industrial revolution rewards the companies that use the expensive new technology more efficiently. And I leave it to you to wonder why Dr. Kaur highlights that. He liked Robert Bittencourt's Meta is reportedly planning to launch a cloud business that would compute capacity and models to third parties. The move would bring Meta's compute strategy in line with Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and SpaceX, which already balance their capacity between internal and external workloads to varying degrees. While some may point to these moves as a sign of loosening demand for AI compute, an alternative interpretation is that these moves highlight how tight the market for compute is today. Essentially, the market is incentivizing all available excess compute to be externalized. This is a theme we've been thinking about and writing about for some time. In our most recent piece, The Growing Compute Shortage, we discuss why compute is emerging as one of the most strategically important resources in the AI ecosystem. And you got to use it efficiently when it's in shortage. He liked Ermanio Bonifaci. The Adventure project team showed how Trinity AI in Geneel Cloud 11 can build a daily closure dashboard in seconds. That plus modern glass theme, OpenAI, agentic integration transform projects into the core of our concept of an enterprise reasoning platform. He also liked Frank Holmes's point from Hive. Paraguay just validated the energy to compute economy. Energy to compute economy. What does Canada have? Energy. What don't they have? People. What do they have excess of? Energy. And the people they have are highly intelligent and educated. Paraguay just did something almost no government has done before. Its central bank incorporated crypto mining directly into the national accounts, not through a speech, not through a policy memo, through a change in how the economy is measured. Governments do not formally measure industries they expect to disappear. They measure industries they expect to do well. By adopting some accounting standard, Paraguay has become one of the first countries to officially recognize Bitcoin mining as an economic output within its national statistics. That's more than symbolic. Mining has become part of the country's productive infrastructure. The numbers are significant. Electricity, here's the idea. Electricity converted into Bitcoin is now recognized as an exported service. Well, imagine if it's AI compute recognized as an exported service. Hydropower that was once sold cheaply, left as surplus, or simply curtailed can now be transformed into liquid, globally traded, dollar-denominated digital asset. Energy is no longer just a commodity. It has become capital. This is exactly the thesis we've been building at Hive Digital Technologies. Stranded or surplus energy becomes Bitcoin. Jungles become energy. Animals are sacrificed in the meantime. Paraguay, anyway, it goes on about Bitcoin, but I think what Dr. Kaur might be highlighting is that Paraguay can export its energy in compute for AI. History shows that when governments formally recognize emerging industries, the companies that invested early are often the ones that benefit most. Well, that I would have to say is worth a doctoral degree. Doctore. Dr. Kaur liked this. Genial Cloud 11 is here. Too many systems, too much fragmented data, too much time wasted. This is the operational reality of thousands of businesses today. Processes that don't talk to each other, like any good marriage. Decisions that slow down, energy lost across tools that were never meant to work together. Genial Cloud was built to change this. A single architecture that integrates a bunch of stuff and makes it all work together. He liked this from Hive Digital Technologies. Your most sensitive data doesn't live in a database anymore. It lives in prompts. Each query pulls contracts, records, source code into context windows. Where you run AI matters as much as how. He liked this. January. Janvier. January through June, Hive Digital executed across every front: AI, Bitcoin, capital markets, infrastructure. So these were their goals in January. Six months, one direction, forward. And then he liked this. Hive Digital. Canada helped pioneer modern AI, then watched others build the infrastructure to profit from it. That changes now. What we have lacked is not talent. It is industrial infrastructure to commercialize the talent. We will fight on the beaches. We will fight on the streets. We will fight wherever, on the landing grounds. Well, I followed her to the station with a suitcase in my hand. Yeah, I followed her to the station with a suitcase in my hand. Oh, it's hard to tell, it's hard to tell when all your love's in vain. He liked this. Banks continue to invest in AI, automation, and digital transformation, but every initiative depends on one thing: access to accurate data. The challenge is that most banking data lives inside documents, whether it's an ID, bank statement, tax form, bankruptcy filing, business registration, or financial statement. Every important decision starts with information that has to be extracted. AI starts with better data. Technologies like agentic AI, retrieval augmented generation, and model context protocol are transforming banking, but they can only deliver value when they have access to reliable, structured information. Before AI can automate decisions, documents must first become data, one platform for every document. Many banks still rely on separate solutions for different document types, creating disconnected workflows and unnecessary complexity. Base 64, it's a different company, changes that by providing a single platform that automatically classifies, extracts, validates, and structures data from virtually any banking document, from IDs and checks to bank statements, tax forms, bankruptcy filings, and business registrations. One platform, thousands of document types. Turning documents into decisions. Document intelligence doesn't just automate extraction, it enables everything that follows. Structured data allows AI to automate workflows, accelerate onboarding and lending, strengthen compliance, improve fraud detection, and integrate seamlessly with existing banking systems. The banks that will lead the future aren't the ones collecting more documents. They're the ones turning every document into trusted data more quickly. He liked Hive Digital. Hive converts surplus renewable energy into Bitcoin. Buzz HPC shifts that compute to AI. Clean energy becomes sovereign infrastructure. Sovereign infrastructure accelerates human discovery. From untapped jewels to jewels on your wife's fingers. Sophie, no. AI plus quantum is the most used and least understood phrase in deep tech right now. So I wrote down what I have observed. Sophie at TELUS Global Ventures. If you are building or investing in quantum and AI, my team at TELUS Global Ventures would like to compare notes. The real AI plus quantum story is infrastructure, not chatbots. Dartmouth. Anyway, in 1956, they did a study on artificial intelligence. First use of the term artificial intelligence. I thought it was when Kamala Harris ran for Senate. Dr. Tom Core liked this. Our team has just spent 2 days at the Venture Summit, Young Startup Ventures. One theme ran through almost every conversation: physical AI, AI on the manufacturing floor, in the repair bay, on the service call. Investors and founders across hardware and deep tech kept landing on the same question: how do you get fast, accurate, timely AI into the hands of the people doing the work? That's the problem we built Visor to solve. We are augmenting the workforce, giving frontline workers instant access to procedures and troubleshooting. Notice how AI is no longer replacing workers, it's just helping them. Very interesting. When the train comes, I looked her in her eye. Well, the train come in the station, and I looked her in the eye. Oh, I felt so sad, so lonesome. I could not help but cry. When the train left the station, it had 2 lights from behind. When this train left the station, it had 2 lights on behind. Oh, the blue light was my baby, and the red light was my mind. Oh, my love was in vain. All right, so I started a new bit of questioning just because I get bored with the same ones. And what I notice is a lot of retail people always tell me XRP and all that. I'm not negative on it, but I want to learn something. I don't go in a lot of focus here because it's off subject, but I said XRP, is it really going to create the greatest wealth transfer in history? Could the alternatives to MasterCard, Visa bypass this solution? Could the token economy eclipse crypto solutions? So here came the answer. And I was testing out that new service, whatever it's called, that's supposed to be, blow everybody away. The greatest wealth transfer in history line is a marketing slogan, not a mechanism. And you, of all people, know that a wealth transfer requires a counterparty. So let's run it through your own filter. What's documented, what's inferred, and who's selling it into the narrative. what's actually real. The regulatory picture has changed. The August 25 SEC resolution established XRP isn't a security in programmatic sales, which reopened the United States exchanges and unlocked sidelined institutional capital. And the SEC and the CFTC jointly classified XRP as a digital commodity in March, while Ripple's OCC National Trust Bank charter framework went live in April. Though the bank hasn't opened yet, pending AML KYC, capital adequacy, and systems review. Conditions: real customers, real corridors. Ripple's ODL processes billions in cross-border flow starting with remittances and expanding into treasury and business payouts. That is a legitimate payments company. None of it is fake. The structural problem of the bulls skip. XRP in ODL is a bridge asset held for 3 to 5 seconds. High velocity settlement assets don't require high market caps. The same 10 billion of annual corridor volume can be serviced by a small, fast rotating float. Utility throughput doesn't mechanically accrue to token holders the way the influencer math, such as 150 trillion payments market divided by XRP's supply, implies. That situation has no take, or the situation has no take rate, no velocity term, and no reason the value lands on the token rather than on Ripple's software fees. Even a sympathetic institutional write-up concedes the point. Critics argue Ripple's infrastructure can function without large-scale use of the token. The company can expand its payments network and stablecoin ecosystem even if XRP adoption stays limited. And here's the part that should feel familiar from your GDC and finger work. I don't know how it remembers everything. Ripple itself is the largest structural seller of XRP. The escrow releases roughly 1 billion tokens monthly, mostly re-escrowed, but the sold portion funds the company. The quote wealth transfer as constructed flows from the retail narrative buyers to the issuer and to the early holders. That's a distribution pattern, not a rail replacement dividend. Note also that many of the banks using XRP lists conflate 3 different things. RippleNet messaging clients, Santander uses Ripple's messaging capabilities rather than XRP for liquidity, for example. Custody clients and actual ODL users. The XRP consuming cohort is much smaller than the headline lists. And then on Visa and MasterCard, a category error in the bull pitch, honestly. Well, we would want you to be honest. particularly when it comes to me. This Frenchman is always a pain. But it's good. It's good to have a critic. Everybody needs a critic. ODL competes with correspondent banking, not the credit cards. SWIFT, Nostro, Vostro, pre-funding, not with card networks. Visa and MasterCard's moat isn't settlement speed, it's issuing. It's the issuing and acquiring stack, dispute resolution, fraud liability, chargebacks, and consumer rewards. Nobody chooses a card because of what happens in the back office. The actual threat to both the card networks and the XRP bridge thesis is the same thing: dollar stable coins. A merchant using USDC or a bank settling into RLUSD gets instant settlement with no foreign exchange volatility and no bridge asset at all. What brings up the awkward irony, Ripple's own RLUSD is designed for instant institutional dollar settlement, while Ripple frames it as complementary. They say, quote, XRP provides liquidity between stable coin systems, unquote. A well-distributed RLUSD arguably cannibalizes the case for XRP as the bridge. If the stablecoin is liquid in both corridors, why touch a volatile intermediary? Tokenization versus crypto, yes. And this is a quieter, more durable trend. Tokenized treasuries, funds, and settlement. Bank of New York custodying RLUSD, Avia exploring tokenized fund structures on XRPL, the first major traditional asset manager building directly on the ledger on those tokenized treasuries, all as examples. Tokenized treasuries, funds, and settlement is where institutions are actually moving. But notice, tokenization is chain agnostic and mostly gravitates toward permissioned rails, Ethereum or bank consortium chains. Tokenized RWAs don't need a floating speculative token to appreciate. They need legal enforceability and custody. So, quote, tokenization eclipsing crypto, I don't know, did I say that? Is plausible, and it's largely bearish for the bridge asset thesis for XRP because it commoditizes the rail. The load-bearing gate in your Railtown formulation, I didn't bring that up. Before any wealth transfer story is credible, you'd want to see published auditable ODL volume that demonstrably requires XRP delivery growing quarter over quarter with a visible transmission mechanism from volume to token demand net of Ripple's escrow releases. That disclosure doesn't exist. What exists is regulatory clearance, which is real, a payments business, which is real, ETF flows, speculative demand, real but reflexive, and valuation narrative doing the rest. Can a $2 XRP trade higher? It can on ETF flows and Clarity Act momentum. But, quote, trades higher on speculative rotation versus, quote, generates the greatest wealth transfer in history via utility are two different claims. And only the first one has evidence behind it. So I asked, is Ripple a long-term investment? A good one. Do stable coins extend fiat currencies like the dollar? And then I brought up XAI's or Musk's new payment system, his bank 6%. Is that going to create a shift? Are AI payment systems going to potentially bypass the need for crypto? And then I pointed out that a lot of hypesters say get into XRP. Taking these in order because they actually chain together into one thesis. Is Ripple a long-term investment? Is it good as a long-term investment? First, you can't buy Ripple. Ripple Labs is a private equity. SBI holds a 9% equity stake in the company itself, and that's the instrument that captures software fees, RLUSD float income, and custodial revenue. What retail can buy is XRP, which is a different exposure with a different and weaker value capture mechanism. Per everything we walked through the last time. By your own PE due diligence standard, XRP fails the long-term test, not because the company is fake, but because the transmission mechanism from business success to token price is undemonstrated, while the supply overhang from escrow is demonstrated monthly. It can work as a trade on regulatory catalysts and ETFs flows. As an investment, something you'd hold on fundamental through a drawdown, the load-bearing evidence just isn't there. One of the more relevant headlines in my results said it plainly. Ripple landed JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, and SBI and XRP trades like none of it happened. The market has had years to price utility into the token and keeps declining to do so. Do stable coins extend the dollar? Yes. This is the most underwritten story in the space. Dollar stable coins are dollar export machines. Every US dollar token or US digital coin in circulation is backed predominantly by T-bills, meaning stable coin growth is structural treasury demand at exactly the moment the United States needs marginal buyers. That means buyers on the margin, not buyers who are marginal. And on the demand side, they deliver dollarization as an app to every weak currency country on earth. Argentine, Turkish, Nigerian savers holding synthetic dollars on a phone. No U.S. bank account required. This is why Washington's posture flipped from hostile to accommodating. Stable coins are not a threat to dollar hegemony. They're the dollar's newest distribution channel. The crypto framing has it backwards. The dollar is eating crypto's rails, not the other way around. X money, here's what actually launched. It went live June 26 for premium and US Premium Plus subscribers. P2P payments by handle, a 6% yield on deposits, 3% cash back, a metal Visa debit card with money held at Cross River Bank, since X is not a bank and has no banking license. The 6% is promotional economics, not banking economics. Even the best high yield accounts top out at around 4.5% to 5%, with the Fed benchmark at roughly 3.5% to 3.75%. And Senator Warren has formally asked how X money would generate revenue sufficient to pay that yield. The 6% is a customer acquisition subsidy, the fintech equivalent of Uber pricing. Fine as a strategy, but don't mistake it for sustainable. The irony, Musk, quote, "You won't need a bank account," unquote, product runs on a Visa partnership, sits inside FDIC insured member banks, and launched fiat only, no cryptocurrency, stablecoin, or blockchain settlement of any kind, despite the XRP community frenzy over the Cross River connection. Cross River has a long Ripple relationship, but neither X nor Cross River has announced any XRP integration. That speculation is another example of exactly the retail herding you're noticing. The Everything app killed correspondent friction by using, well, the existing rails worn as skin. Where it could create a shift is the part buried in the coverage analysts note that with XAI attached, X money is laying the groundwork for agentic commerce. Where it could create a shift is what analysts note, that with XAI attached, X money is laying the groundwork for agentic commerce, an AI banking interface rather than another Cash App clone. They're also noting that it probably won't survive as mere money transfer service. The deposit product is the Trojan horse. The AI layer is the payload. Though the sober counterpoint stands, every Western super app attempt has hit the same ceiling, because consumers in open banked markets resist all-in-one apps. Not in China, but they're not open and banked. Do AI payment systems bypass crypto? Mostly yes, with one important carve-out. Agentic payments are already being built on conventional rails. MasterCard's AP4M lets AI agents pay fractions of a cent continuously across cards and stable coins with credentialing, spending limits, and guaranteed settlement on MasterCard's network. Notice what an AI agent actually needs. It needs programmable, instant, stable value, legally recourse money. Stable coins and tokenized deposits fit that speculation. That's that spec. What does it spec stand for? Volatile speculative tokens don't. Specification. No agent designer wants the payment medium moving 8%. So the likely outcome is that AI commerce massively accelerates the stablecoin tokenized dollar layer while bypassing the speculative token layer almost entirely. Crypto as infrastructure wins, crypto as tradable coins gets rooted around, therefore routed in the fight. The card networks, far from being disrupted, are positioning to be trust and dispute layer for agent payments, which is their actual moat. On the hype you're seeing, your instincts are correct, and you already know this pattern from the junior market. You have large insider issuer supply, the escrow releases, a newly legitimized narrative, SEC resolution, commodity classification ETFs, an influencer ecosystem monetizing engagement on price targets, and a retail bid being actively cultivated. Even the pro XRP commentary frames it as, quote, retail panicking over dips while institutions build, unquote, which is the textbook hold the bag messaging. In your vocabulary, this looks like the distribution into strength, with the narrative doing the work that a promoted junior's news flow does. The tell will be the same one you always use. Does disclosed measurable, growing on ledger, utility volume ever show up to meet the price, or does the price only ever meet the story? I think I know the answer. So then I asked, I'm interested in the CEO. I couldn't remember the name when I wrote it. I can't think of his name or company. And then I remembered it. Who just shocked AI by saying that large language models need an orchestration layer related to Railtown space. You're thinking of Alex Palantir, and the timing is fresh. This past week, he argued that something has gone completely wrong in enterprise AI, that customers buying token-based access to frontier large language models are paying to expose their own intellectual property while getting very little value back. And that the durable profit pools sit at only two ends of the stack, the compute layer, where NVIDIA sells accelerators, and the application layer, where Palantir sells its ontology and AIP platform. Token-based model access is not one of them, in his view, because clients won't pay the true cost and the labs carry bad financials. The underlying doctrine is what he calls commodity cognition. Model quality is converging, so operational leverage accrues to whoever owns the deployment layer. The deployment layer. The deployment layer. And his pitch is that enterprises should, quote, own the means of productions. The workers control the means of production. It's a struggle of class against class. Rather than renting cognition by the token. Especially in critical infrastructure settings where data control is non-negotiable. Now, mapping this onto Railtown, and of course, I'll be the Frenchman and I'll go along with some positive news. Where CARP validates the Railtown category, his stack diagram is essentially Railtown's pitch deck drawn by someone with a $1.6 billion in quarterly revenue. Did you guys get that? CARP's stack diagram is essentially Railtown's pitch deck drawn by someone with a $1.6 billion in quarterly revenue. Compute layer in the Canadian sovereign text, that's the TELUS Rimouski factory, the 500 hoppers that sold out. I think it's going to be more than that. That sold out in 3 months. The application orchestration layer, that's the seat Railtown is trying to occupy. The agentic software layer atop sovereign compute, your lane chain comp thesis. Yeah, I don't think they're much of a comp. Model layer. The model layer is commoditized per car, which conveniently is the layer Railtown doesn't own and doesn't need to. And his quote, own the means of production, sounds like Marx. His own the means of production argument for critical infrastructure is almost word for word the Cloud Act sovereignty argument you've identified as Railtown's one structural moat. U.S. domiciled orchestration vendors can't credibly sell data control to Canadian government and telco customers. When the loudest, most commercially validated voice in enterprise AI says the value pools are compute and the application layers, that is real category confirmation for the Railtown thesis. There's even a naming echo worth a wry line if you write a Substack piece. Palantir's platform is literally called AIP, and Railtown's amalgamation vehicle was AIP. Where CARP complicates the Railtown case. Okay, let's hear it. And this is the part the bulls will skip. All right, we're not skipping it. Category validation is not company validation. Category validation is not company validation. And CARP's own story shows why. He credits Palantir's 5-year head start to years building for war fighter requirements and constructing The ontology layer on top, commodity models, 2 decades of forward deployed engineering, encoding customer operations object by object. Palantir's ontology is a deep digital twin, data, logic, actions, and security integrated per customer. Operations object by object. Palantir's product, I guess, which is why Palantir's product is sticky and why he can claim competitors are copying design. The depth is the moat. A thin orchestration wrapper, routing prompts, chaining agents, logging runs, is not that. Thin wrappers are precisely what gets commoditized next, either by the platforms below, Databricks, Microsoft ServiceNow, are all attacking the layer, or by the frontier labs above, whose bull case is that model economics become so overwhelming they absorb the context layer themselves. So the CARP doctrine cuts both ways. It says Railtown picked the right layer, and it says that layer is about to become the most contested real estate in software, which I think is exactly what we've been saying. It's white hot, defended successfully only by whomever accumulates deep embedded per customer operational context, which brings it back to your single load bearing gate, and which actually sharpens it. CARP's proof isn't the rhetoric. It's 133% US commercial growth, $206 million plus deals, and a 46% operating margin. The rhetoric follows the revenue, not the reverse. For Railtown, the equivalent question is now more specific than does ARR show up? It is, does ARR show up in a form that demonstrates ontology like embeddedness? Your mama was embedded. Multi-year contracts, expanding seats within TELUS, Rimouski hosted customer, workflow lock-in versus one-time integration revenue that any competitor could displace. Given, okay, they always go back to this. Given the BCSC disclosed reality of non-binding MOUs and nominal revenue. All right, can you give us a break ever on this? Ever give us a break? CARP's speech is best used as the frame for why the prize is real, not as evidence that Railtown will win it. The honest formulation, CARP just told the market which layer of the AI stack the money lives in, which that's good for us. Railtown is a nominal revenue microcap standing on that exact layer, exactly. In the one national market where sovereignty gives where sovereignty gives a domestic player a head start it didn't have to earn. Whether it converts that head start is the whole trade. And the scoreboard is still the financial statements. Oh, what's this with the negative vibes? Always negative vibes, my man. One more thread worth noting. CARP's attack on token-based pricing is implicitly an attack on the frontier labs enterprise economics and the sovereign compute world you've mapped. Telus Camp versus Bell Cohere Camp is where that fight gets nationalized. Cohere sits closer to the model layer, CARP says is commoditizing. Railtown sits in the layer he says wins. So I said category validation, not company validation. My bias, I believe Railtown has disruptive technology. And then, of course, to keep in the good graces of the dude, I said, so was the Wankel, you may point out. What would, in your judgment, cause company validation in the case of Railtown? Good. And I'll take the Wankel bait. I know, you're a big Wankel yourself. Because it's the right cautionary analogy for a specific reason. The Wankel didn't fail on elegance, it failed on economics under sustained load. Apex seal wear, fuel consumption, emissions, compliance, problems invisible in the demo and fatal in the fleet. Mazda kept it alive for decades on brand affection, not unit economics. The lesson isn't disruptive tech fails, it's that technology is validated in demos. Companies are validated in renewals. So everything below is a renewal and economics test, not a capability test. Here's my ladder, just to be a jerk. Just to be a jerk. All my love's in vain. That's some good tennis going on. Grigor Dimitrov and Ferry, I think he's Alex Ferry. 7-5, 6-3, 6-4, 6-4. Now in the fifth set, on serve. Amazing. And Taylor Fritz and Bublik are one set all, and looks like Fritz got a break in the third set. I don't know. I thought Bublik would win that. I thought Dimitrov would win the other match. All right, let's see where we are. I really don't know where we are. Darn it. I guess that's it right there. All right, here's my ladder in ascending order of evidentiary weight, which later on I challenged and it backed off on. First rung, the company's own bar. The AIP escrow milestones, I get so sick of this. The 1 million, then the 2 million in ARR are the cleanest validation instrument available because insiders set those numbers themselves as the price of releasing their own shares. Missing a bar you wrote is far more darning than missing an analyst. Hitting it on schedule with revenue that survives audit is the minimum credible event. But note the trap. 1 million of ARR can be manufactured, a friendly pilot, a related party contract. Yeah, we know. Second run, revenue character, not revenue existence. This is the CARP embeddedness test applied to a microcap. Company validation looks like named customers, anonymity in a company this small is a yellow flag, not a confidentiality courtesy. Multi-year terms rather than pilots, and above all, expansion. A customer who started with X dollars and now at 2X because usage grew. One customer deepening is worth 5 logos landing, because expansion is the only revenue behavior that can't be promoted into existence. It requires the product to have survived contact with production workloads and been chosen again by someone spending their own budget. That's the anti-Wankel signal. The third rung, TELUS converts from adjacency to paper. Right now, the relationship is ecosystem positioning. Railtown orbits the Rimouski build. Atufat Shamsi's advisory seat signals intent. Validation is a disclosed binding commercial agreement with dollars attached. TELUS bundling, reselling, or committing volume, for example. The moment TELUS has revenue dependent on Railtown's layer rather than merely compatible with it, the contested acquisition endgame you have been identifying becomes structurally live instead of speculative. Everything before that is co-marketing. Fourth rung, the financing tape. This one you can read in real time, quarter by quarter. Watch who funds the company and on what terms. Lazaridis Fragan placing once is the signal. Sophisticated money re-upping at higher prices after seeing internal progress is a much stronger one, because they have information you do not. Wait a minute. Rebecca said there's no quiet period, so how can you say they invested in February with information we don't have? I'm confused, because I listen to the drivel on stock twits. I'm not picking on it on you, anybody. It's just the nightmare of, if you go down where the brain IQ collectively starts with someone that Bill Clinton would send to the death penalty, you're not in a good place. The inverse is equally diagnostic. If financings migrate toward brokered raises, deepening discounts, fatter warrant coverage, you know the structure better than anyone else. The smart money is telling you the internal picture isn't matching the external narrative. Financing quality is company validation, or it can be invalidation over the near term. Fifth rung, third parties spending non-cash resources, senior engineers leaving credible employers to join, a named customer willing to appear in a case study or on a reference call, a systems integrator building a practice around the product. These are people and firms with inside visibility staking careers and reputations which cannot be bought with a promotional budget the way coverage can. Sixth rung, hostile confirmation. The strongest validation short of the bid itself. An incumbent tries to build or buy the same thing. That's happening, by the way. Your contested acquisition thesis requires at least two parties independently concluding the asset matters. I just showed you one. Watch for OpenText, CGI, Thales Digital, or a Bellcamp player launching a competing sovereign orchestration offering or sniffing around comparable assets. competitors don't attack empty positions. And one disqualifying condition running underneath it all, because I'm French, clean continuous disclosure. The BCSC review already extracted the emissions. Because I'm French, I only see it as a bad thing. MOU's non-binding nominal revenue. A company with genuinely disruptive technology stops needing MOU dressing. The filings get quieter and the financial statements get louder. If the press release cadence stays promotional while the audited numbers stay nominal, that inversion itself is the answer, regardless of how good the technology is. On your bias directly, believing the technology is disruptive is a defensible position. The sovereignty moat is real and the layer is the correct one per CARP. But notice that nothing on my ladder requires you to be correct about the technology, and nothing off of it lets you be rescued by being right. Nissan was right about the Wankel and still died. The discipline you already apply everywhere else applies here. Your conviction about the technology is the hypothesis. The latter is the experiment. And the stock only deserves patience while the rungs are being climbed on schedule. I'd suggest literally calendaring it, whatever the hell that means. I suggest literally putting it on your calendar. The escrow milestones have dates. Financings have closing terms. Quarterlies have revenue lines. If 2 consecutive quarters pass with narrative progress but no rung progress, that's the Wankel telling you it's a wanker, mate. It's a wanker. All right. So I answered your first bar is silly, not you or your observation. Ever aware that this is a touchy Frenchman I'm asking? In my opinion, the thresholds are absurdly low and likely were a compromise in the negotiations to acquire. Second rung, can expansion happen almost immediately? In other words, what if the revenues ramp from the jump? What would convince you at TELUS? Fourth rung, will the stock price wait for quarter by quarter analysis if revenues become projectable? Fifth rung, senior engineers leaving credible employers, in other words, heard of companies, to join. Can this occur out of your sequence? Any hostile out there right now? The disclosure, you read it as a promotional micro crap company getting disciplined. You can't help it. I see it as a cleaning up of the bits and pieces to prepare for what's coming. I think the game changed from panhandling from company to company, a la Langchain, albeit successfully, to becoming a must-have on top of data centers with their huge customer bases locked in. We shall see. Yes, that is the bet. Railtown was first to create this, kind of first to market before they withdrew to molt into something much bigger, and is best in class. I do not think it has to be a category killer to win for investors. The total addressable market is huge, room for many, yet I do think Railtown is a category killer. Am I swooned by Corey? Maybe. That is why I ask you. I think Rail has only one chance to make the first impression, as does TELUS, so the quote unquote delays make sense if, perhaps only if, I am correct in my read. Taking your pushbacks because you've earned it. Swell. All I can say is swell. On the escrow bar, you're right about the affirmative case, but you're arguing past the diagnostic one, which on consideration, I think makes a lot of sense. This is a very smart Frenchman. Yes, 1 to 2 million revenue is almost certainly a negotiated compromise, size to be reachable, and hitting it proves little. I'll concede that fully. But the value of a self-authored low bar is asymmetric. It validates weakly when cleared and devastates when missed. I get that point. I think that's a good point, actually. A company that whiffs on a threshold its own insiders set as the price of their own shares has told you something no bear analyst could. So keep it on the dashboard, not as a validation event, but as a tripwire. You're right that it can't carry the bull case. It can absolutely carry the bear case if missed. Can expansion happen immediately? Yes. And this is actually the sharpest part of your Molt thesis. So let me steelman it properly. The lane chain model is bottoms up, panhandle developer by developer, company by company, revenue grinds. The model you're describing is channel embedded, channel embedded, channel embedded. If Railtown ships as a layer inside the data center offering, then Railtown's expansion is the AI factory's tenant growth. Revenue arrives as a step function the moment the channel switches on, channel embedded, because the customers were acquired by TELUS's sales force, not Railtown's. Phase 1 selling out in 3 months is precedent that the channel fills quickly. So yes, a jump ramp is consistent with your read. And if it happens, my expansion over logos test still applies, but it gets answered quickly. The character question just shifts. What I'd examine in a jump ramp is it usage-based revenue that scales with tenant workloads, which is real embeddedness, or a one-time integration license jump, which is just a dressing. And note the trade you'd be making. A single channel revenue is TELUS concentrated risk. No question about that. One customer, which weakens Railtown's standalone negotiating position while strengthening the acquisition endgame. Maybe. It depends on how many TELUSes. That's fine. It's coherent with your contested takeout thesis, but it means the win condition is the bid, not the decade-long compounder. Okay, worth being explicit with yourself because I'm a nagging Frenchman. What would convince me at TELUS? Direction of spend. Validation is when TELUS spends its brand on Railtown rather than Railtown spending press releases on TELUS. Fair enough. Concretely, Railtown appearing in TELUS's own product catalog or sales collateral for the AI factory as a named layer. Fair enough. A master services or revenue share agreement filed as a material contract on Setter Plus, inclusion in a phase 2 capacity announcement from TELUS's side. Makes sense to me. TELUS taking equity or warrants, a joint customer win announced by TELUS's communications team. Any one of these converts adjacency into dependency. Until an announcement flows in that direction, it's co-marketing, however warm. Taylor Fritz beat Bublik in 3 sets. Will the stock wait for quarters? No. And I should have said so. Markets front run projectability. This is something Tony's never learned, which leads me to believe he's never had that much experience. But I could be wrong. That's one truly caring dude. He cares about you. Remember that. Markets front run projectability. The re-rate happens on the credibility event, the contract, the channel announcement, guidance, not on the printed quarter. Your position since December 24. So front running works in your favor. The quarterly discipline isn't about when the stock moves. It's about the decision you face after it moves. Whether the subsequent filings verify what the announcement promised, which governs whether you hold the free carry or exit it. Your own total metals doctrine, sell half near a double, ride the remainder, is the right shape here too. And it doesn't require waiting for quarters to act on the front run. I don't agree with that, by the way. I would not sell half your Railtown when it doubles. I think that will be a tragic mistake. Rules are there to be bent, not to cause strict fealty every single time. It's good for day trading, but Railtown is not a day trade by a long shot. Engineers out of order, conceded fully. My friend. Nothing I like better than a good closet ploy. Talent is usually the earliest signal, not the fifth. Hiring precedes revenue by design. My ladder was evidentiary weight, not chronology. Oh, I see. Yes, I see. And boys, girls, am I glad to see you? Senior hires from heard of companies showing up on LinkedIn before any commercial announcement would be exactly the pattern your read predicts. That's cheap real-time monitoring. I didn't predict it. You brought it up. Is there a hostile now? The nearest live one is Cohere. Their agentic enterprise platform, North, running on the Bellcamp Sovereign Stack, is a direct assault on the same, quote, orchestration layer atop sovereign compute position from the model layer downward. That's not a bare point in isolation. It actually confirms your two camps map and the contested dynamic your endgame requires. The watch items beyond Cohere, whether CGI or Deloitte Canada stand up a sovereign AI orchestration practice around someone else's product, and whether OpenText, Canadian acquisitive enterprise software DNA, moves on a comparable asset. I haven't verified. So OpenText, we'll have to remember OpenText. I haven't verified current states on those if you want. Yeah, I should have asked you. On the disclosure rate, read, a fair hit. You're right that I carry a base rate prior. Canadian Stock Exchange microcap, BCSC continuous disclosure review pattern. Just once matches to promotion getting disciplined, and I can't fully unsee that. But base rates are priors, not verdicts. And your read, cleaning up the filings before a material commercial phase because you get one shot at institutional scrutiny, is consistent with the same facts. These two stories are observationally equivalent today. The denominator is what follows. Your read predicts the company goes quiet, then material disclosure cadence drops, then a binding dollar attached announcement lands. Mine predicts a resumption of promotional cadence with nominal numbers underneath. I know, because you are Cato, not now Cato. That's a clean, watchable fork. Neither of us has to argue. We just have to watch and see what happens. Now I'm going to push back the TAM. You're saying huge TAM, room for many, doesn't need to be a category killer. Yes, that's true. But your own earlier sizing put the Canadian addressable software layer at 1 to 2 billion. That's just not correct. Which is exactly why you concluded standalone unicorn outcomes were structurally implausible and the takeout was the end game. I never concluded that. I think you need to go back to your mama before I get upset with you. Because the only thing I see here is you're cruising for a bruising. That's the only thing I see. The investor win at Railtown size requires either a category killer share within Canada or the export of the sovereignty playbook to other jurisdictions, which is real but unproven second act. You can't hold room for many and big wins simultaneously without one of those two doing the work. Second, and this is the one my name is Richard about the most. Your delay logic is currently structured so it can't lose on time. Quote, the delays make sense only if I'm correct. Means delay is being read as evidence for your thesis, which means no amount of delay can ever count against it. That's an epistemic trap, independent of whether Corey has swoon you. The fix isn't cynicism. Dimitrov Ferry, fifth set, tied 5-all. It's a deadline. Define now in writing what the completed molt looks like. It's totally fair. It's a totally fair thing to do and recommend. A binding TELUS announcement or an auditable channel revenue or the escrow milestones. And pick a time by which it must clear for the story to remain the best explanation. I think that's fair. If the date passes without result, the delay wasn't a molt, it was a stall. Cannot help my little Cato. You already run this discipline on every company you investigate. Yes, I'm going to investigate you next. The only difference here is that this is the one you love. Your mama. And the only one you love, and love is all you need. God, it just drives me crazy. It just drives me crazy. This thing has been trained like they moved to personalizing it. On Corey specifically, I can't read his sincerity. Charisma is unfalsifiable. What's falsifiable is in his tape. Score his past public statements and timelines against what actually shipped. Check insider buying against insider selling. Looks good. Look at whether options have ever been replaced. Never have. Founders validate the same way companies do, retrospectively in filings. If his tape is clean, it is. Your swoon is cover. The bet is you frame it. First to create, withdrew to molt, best in class, one shot at first impression is coherent, but it is ambitious. It is also structurally the exact story every failed platform microcap told at this stage. So you see a pattern. That's your problem. You see a pattern. The difference between those two universes isn't visible in the story. It's visible in the fork above. We shall see is right, but set the calendar so you have an expiry date. My subscription to you is going to have an expiry date. I wrote on your two criticisms at the end. You are incorrect on the TAM. I do not recall limiting eventual TAM in Canada. The self-described TELUS goal is $2 billion in AI-enabled technology revenues by 28. Surely they expect growth from there? The Hive BCE clusters is a multiple of that. Canada's AI usage push is from 12% to 60% utilization. Then you leave off the world's demand for sovereignty and this solution. That is the 10. I'm not saying endless delay confirms my bias, yet the June CSIP deadline, as one example, in a nationwide Manhattan project almost, is not unreasonable to observe. You, in your cautious negativity, see the leadership change at TELUS as a risk. I see it as a logical starting point for focus on AI revenues. Could Cohere be utilizing Railtown's technology already? Fair on both counts. On the TAM, All right, it's 6-all, fifth set, tiebreaker. You were partly right. Oh, thank you. And I overstated your prior. The 1 to 2 billion figure from our early work was sizing the Canadian software layer take, the orchestration slice of sovereign compute spend, not your ceiling on eventual TAM. And I shouldn't have deployed it as if you'd capped the thesis there. Your expansion points are legitimate and worth separating by strength. TELUS's 2 billion AI-enabled revenue target by 2028 is real. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. Baby. But be careful with it. That's total. We know that. That's total AI revenue. GP. Yes, we know all of that. And Railtown's addressable piece is the software take rate on that, which is how the smaller number was derived in the first place. You don't know what you're talking about. So that particular figure doesn't break up the old sizing. It's the denominator the old sizing was applied to. You don't know what you're talking about. The adoption ramp grows the denominator over time. But the argument that actually moves the TAM by an order of magnitude is your third one, sovereignty as an exportable playbook. Every country now wants what Canada is building, and a neutrality positioned orchestration layer travels in a way a US hyperscaler product can't. And here I'll note something in Railtown's own record that supports you. Really? You're going to do that for me? The Brilliant AI partnership exactly positions Railtown across Dubai and Gulf states, targeting government agencies pursuing digital transformation and the AIP affiliate network. So the export thesis isn't just your inference. The company is visibly pursuing it. My revised framing. Yes, nothing I like better than a closet ploy. The Canadian software layer alone probably can't produce the outcome you want. Canada as proof of concept for global sovereignty export can. That's the version of the TAM argument I'd underwrite. Really? And perhaps you already have through Ceres MENA network. Okay. Delay logic. You already gave me what I asked for. So credit where credit is due. I can't believe it. I'm going to get a swell head because you're so swell. You're treating me so swell. You are treating me so swell. You are treating me so swell. A dated government program gate exogenous like the June CSIP deadline is a falsifiable, approvable anchor, not a rolling excuse. If a material announcements were structurally embargoed behind a national program's timeline, then post-deadline is when the Molt thesis gets tested, which means the next few months are unusually information-rich, not indefinitely deferred. My criticism now reduces to one sentence. The anchor only works if it doesn't roll. Fine, I can live with that. First deadline passes quiet, a new wait for X appears. When the pattern flips from molt to stall, don't listen anymore. On TELUS's leadership, and it just happened, no shite Sherlock. Victor Dodige succeeded Darren Entwistle. I didn't know that. I did not know that. July 1. So the transaction just happened 5 days ago. I had no clue. For the record, I hadn't scored that as a risk. That's not true. You just don't remember the conversation. But let me engage the substance. Dodige is a CIBC CEO brought in explicitly amid earnings pressure, high capital needs, and expansion into health and AI, with the stock down over 1, 3, 5 years. A capital markets operator hired to monetize, which favors pushing AI revenue hard and pushing it fast. That's coherent. The counter read is that he's going to triage ruthlessly, kill subscale initiatives. It cuts both ways. It depends on whether the AI factory is Dodige's growth story or a CapEx line he squeezes. Mama had a squeeze box. One structural point favors your end game either way. A merger and acquisition fluent former bank CEO is the kind of acquirer who does disciplined tuck-ins. Good night, sleep tight. When a layer proves strategic, if a bid ever comes, a Dodige-led TELUS is arguably more likely to execute one than a founder-era regime. Watch him closely. We will. We will. We appreciate. All right, 6-5. 5-all, 6-6 now in the tiebreaker. Ferry serving. Railtown's disclosed partner set, you've heard about it. Cohere appears nowhere in the record, and the deeper reason it's unlikely isn't just camp geography. Cohere North is their agentic platform play. Orchestration is a product they are building to own, not a component they'd license from a competing microcap. Finally, the disclosure locket cinches it. For a company Railtown size, Cohere as a technology customer would be wildly material. You'd think so. You'd think a lot of this stuff is wildly material. That's the very reason I think they're going to start saying things. Silence is the answer. Cohere is building its own orchestration layer. That's the hostile confirmation that the layer matters. 2 Canadian camps, 2 philosophies. Canadians, Cohere trying to own the layer from the model down, Railtown trying to own it from the infrastructure up. Carp, incidentally, just told you the market, told you and the market which direction he thinks wins. Oh my gosh, Ferry won. Ferry wins. Oh no, they got to go to 10 first. It's 8-6, and in the final tiebreaker, it's the first person to 10. Now it's 8-7. Ferry serving. I said, explain that last sentence. Remember, in the Hive et al. Announcement, no one was identified as the orchestration layer yet. Could it be awaiting a TELUS disclosure first because TELUS was first? A quiet period is just that. Silencio. Uh-oh, 9-7, ferry serving. It could go to 10. This could be it. It's match point, set point, match point. It's all riding on this serve by ferry. Come on, England. Come on. Nope, 9-7 now. No, it's still 9-7. There are two ways to own the orchestration layer. Cohere's approach is modeled down. They built frontier models first, and North, their agentic platform, exists substantially to create demand for those models and defend their pricing. The orchestration layer for Cohere is a delivery mechanism for the asset underneath it, which means Cohere's economics are chained to the proposition that their models command a premium. Railtown's approach, on the other hand, is infrastructure up. Railtown's approach, Ferry One, Railtown's approach is an infrastructure up one. It is a model agnostic orchestration and observability layer sitting on sovereign compute, indifferent to which model wins underneath. If Claude beats Command or an open weights model beats both, Railtown's position does not degrade. Arguably, it improves because cheaper cognition means more agent workloads to orchestrate and observe. Now overlay Karp. His whole doctrine, commodity cognition, is that model quality is converging. Token-based model economics are structurally bad. Quote, the labs carry bad financials. And durable profit pools, exist only at compute and only at the application layer sitting on top of commodity models. If he is correct, then the model down player is carrying its most doomed asset at the center of its business. The orchestration layer it builds is a life raft lashed to a sinking hull, while the model agnostic player is positioned to benefit from the very commoditization that hurts its rival. Karp's own company is the existence proof. Palantir builds no frontier models, sits atop whatever cognition is cheapest, and prints 46% operating margins doing it. So when the most commercially validated voice in enterprise AI says the model layer is where value dies, and the application layer is where value accrues, he is, without knowing either company exists, he is endorsing Railtown's architecture over Cohere's. That's what I meant. The honest caveat. It's a structural argument, not a dispositive one. See, I knew as an attorney. Cohere has scale, revenue, and sovereign brand capital that can outweigh a worse position for a long time. And the frontier lab counter thesis, models get so good they absorb the orchestration from above, is exactly the bear case on both Karp and Railtown simultaneously. On the unnamed orchestration slot in the Hive Bell announcements, you've spotted something real. The observable fact is significant. In the Bell Camp disclosures, the compute layer is named Hive, Grok, Hypertext. The model layer is named Cohere, and the orchestration layer is conspicuously not named. That's confirmable, and it matters regardless of explanation, because it establishes that the layer is understood to exist, is understood to be distinct, and is publicly unclaimed. Vacant strategic real estate in one of the two national caps. That alone strengthens that this layer is the contested prize frame. The asserted mechanism. The slot is empty because everyone is waiting on a TELUS first disclosure involving Railtown held under a quiet period silence. Maybe is where I'd pump the brakes. It's not exactly what I said. It might be the government, it might be TELUS. I did bring up TELUS as an example. Or because it's impossible, not because it's impossible, because it's a three-step inference resting on the absence of evidence. Okay, I get it. You know this move from your own work. Absence in an announcement is consistent with your read, but it's equally consistent with other explanations. The Bell camp might be treating the Cohere North solution as its de facto orchestration answer and not naming it separately. Or the layer simply has not been contracted yet by anyone, or the consortium regarding it now as a services integration detail rather than a named partner tier. If you were auditing someone else's bull thesis, you'd flag it. That's probably true. Your Silencio point deserves its full weight because it's procedurally correct. If a binding material agreement is in negotiation, securities law does not permit Railtown to hint. It requires the silence. So a company that has cleaned up its continuous disclosure, stopped MOU dressing, and gone quiet while sitting adjacent to a partner that just completed a CEO handover on a national program deadline, that is precisely the shape a pre-announcement quiet period takes. Of course, it is also precisely the shape nothing happening takes. So from the outside, they both look the same, which is why this doesn't change the fork in the road we just set. It just makes the fork nearer term and higher stakes. Dotage is the chair as of Wednesday. The CSIP gate is behind us, and the quiet period either breaks with us or against us. Silence with an expiry is a thesis. Silence without one is a hope. So you are saying I have a chance. Ha! So you're telling me there's a chance. Yes, I'd rather be precise than either flatter or deflate you. What you have is a live, coherent minority probability thesis with a dated catalyst window, which is more than a microcap story's claim. Things that are real, the layer, it's the right layer. Karp just spent a week telling everybody. The sovereignty moat is structural rather than promotional. The empty orchestration chair in both camps is a fact. The company's disclosure behavior is consistent with pre-material silence. The CEO handover and the CSIP gate have just cleared, and you're not chasing, you're holding because of your long-term time frame. Things against you: zero revenue, 23-person company, lose with a 70 million market cap priced on narrative, a competitor with hundreds of millions is backing the same layer from above, and a base rate for CSC micro craps in hot sectors that is bluntly brutal. You need a lot of things to break right. So a chance, yes. I'm so sick of this Frenchman. I said it was Dumb and Dumber, but I think, had already knew it. Laid out the quote on a platter, then explained the joke like a guy with his own punchline. Lloyd Christmas would have at least had the decency to say it. All right, so that's it for my let's go look at the quotes. I don't agree. I was using Google, now I'm using Anthropic. Anthropic, I think, is set up like an attorney or a busy French waiter at a restaurant in Paris. Dismissive, always dismissive of anything that's not in evidence, which is fair enough, but I get tired of it. The whole point of investing is to try to put the ideas that you see, and in some cases know better than a computer, put it all together and kind of see if you can predict. Let me turn this off for now. It's been so hot here. It's been so hot. All right. Railtown right now is trading at $26.97. The bid is $26.5 for 3,000 shares. The ask is $27.28. The stock has been as high as $27.13. The volume is 42,950 shares. The last trade was 500 shares at $26.97. Looks like a buy to me. There's 500 shares at $26.76. That looks like a computerized high frequency, make a quick 0.0001, and then 5,000 went off at 26.55, and that also, well, I don't know. That might have been the bid, and they were hitting it, because now the bid is 26.50 rather than 26.55. I wasn't watching. Finger is still in the green at 0.405. Nixie is up 5 cents. I would take the chance to get out of it. You might miss a squeeze, but you're not going to trade a squeeze well anyway. And with $1.57 in Nixie, you should be able to buy 6, maybe 7 shares of Railtown right now. That's a trade worth making, trade-off worth making. And then Energy Vault is 410. Northwest Bio is the only one in the red at 1845. And I'll go through your comments. I do want to talk to you about NextBridge if I have time. We'll go over it. And IBM put out a pretty good news release, an explanatory piece that Ward sent me. We'll try to go over that if I have time. Pat M. Hey, Pat. Ward Richardson. Critical software, private, public, critical, private, public, critical, private, public. So Ward sees this technology as critical in all places. And I think he's right. Fast Eddie, the high-flying eagle. Good day, dollar bill. Pat M. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. Pat M bought another 450. Wow, Patty. Pat M bought 450. That's great. Good job, Pat. That's going to bring our total 22 million. Well, not quite. It won't quite get it to 748,000, but close. T. Alex, hi RT gang. Babcock family, Nextbridge new email. I'll try to get to it. Julius Quam, Quayam. I had a dream we hit 30 cents this week. I had a dream that white children and black children could live together. I had a dream that Palestinians could be treated as human beings. I had a dream today. I think it's an exciting dream. That's an exciting dream. Let's see how close we are. We're at 27.28 right now. And Julius, one thing I'll point out to you, I don't think it's going to take very long to bust through 30 cents. I don't have the chart in front of me, but I think it was around 32, 33 that the next moving average comes in. But the big thing, the big area I think is around 42 cents, give or take, to my memory. I don't expect it to be much of a stall. The computers will recognize it and they'll try to gang up. But I think in terms of real people's shares, weak hands already got out. The impatient ones already got out. The ones listening to the day traders already got out to chase COSM as if that's a brilliant idea. Jack Hamilton. Good afternoon, Mr. William. I had some spare change. 55 more shares. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yay. Yay to Pat. Yay to Jack. Yay to Pat. Yay to Jack. Jack Hamilton, Nextbridge new email, communications with Trading 12. Well, it looks like I might have time. Might as well do it here. Might as well do it here. So Nextbridge put out a release here today at 1 o'clock. Nextbridge Hydrocarbons provides update regarding Trading 212. Came out July 6 at 12:59, Midland, Texas. And here's their statement. In May 2026, UK brokerage firm Trading 212 communicated to its clients who held Nextbridge shares that they must either re-register those shares directly in their own names with our transfer agent, Equinity Trust Co., EQ, and pay a processing fee. That's how they pronounce it. Option 1, or relinquish their ownership in those shares to Trading 212 for the nominal consideration of a penny per account. Option 2. They further stated that if clients provided no instruction, Trading 212 would automatically proceed with option 2. Nextbridge believes shareholders deserve complete transparency regarding, I love this guy, regarding matters affecting ownership interests. With that commitment in mind, we provide this update concerning our communications with Trading 212, which might be an excuse for Webull, I don't know. It's worth a research, as well as their U.S. custodian and clearing partner Interactive Brokers. Maybe I'm wrong. We strongly disagree with option 2, which would result in non-responsive shareholders forfeiting shares for the trivial consideration of 1 penny per account. We recognize there may be procedural issues that Trading 212 is trying to resolve through this action, but we believe there are solutions that could far better serve these while preserving the ownership rights of our shareholders. Buy stock from NextBridge. Over the past several weeks, we have engaged directly with Trading 212 in an effort to protect those rights. Gotta love this guy. We encourage shareholders to monitor their accounts and reach out to their brokerage firms if they have concerns. Our communications with Trading 212 have consistently maintained this simple principle. No shareholder should lose ownership interest in a privately held company without their explicit affirmative consent. I agree with that 100%. I'm glad this guy's great. And if you put that out there legally, I think that gives standing in any lawsuit. No shareholder should lose ownership interest in a privately held company without their explicit affirmative consent. In this spirit, we have communicated the following to Trading 212 representatives. 1, a formal preservation notice requesting that all documents, share counts, and communications relating to this matter be retained. I love this guy. 2, our concern that option 2 will adversely and unnecessarily affect shareholder ownership interests without affirmative shareholder consent. Bravo. 3, an alternative under which non-responding shareholders would retain their ownership interest through a bulk certificate at EQ, with NextBridge assuming administrative responsibilities and paying any transfer costs. You gotta love this guy. 4, confirmation from EQ that such a process could be accommodated. Trading 212, who, it's not surprising, it's offshore. I think they're working with the criminals. Trading 212 declined our proposal, citing UK data protection. There you go, Ann Wagner again. Same crap. UK data protection. The minute you land, you walk into Heathrow, the CCTVs know everything you do in London. Stop this with this protection, data protection. Anyway, Trading 212 declined our proposal, citing UK data protection requirements that prevent sharing client information. We expressed difficulty understanding how protecting client information is a superior goal to protecting a client's beneficial ownership rights. Bravo, bravo, bravissimo. Although they may be acting within the scope of their client agreements, we respectfully disagree that terminating share ownership without explicit consent is consistent with the FCA's consumer duty requirements to act in a client's best interest. Bravo. We subsequently posed the following questions central to our concerns. Will the number of NextBridge shares reflected in Trading 212's internal records following implementation of option 2 exactly match the number of shares registered in Trading 212's bulk certificate at EQ? To date, this question remains unanswered, but it is now clear to us they intend to retain beneficial ownership of the non-responding shares for themselves and therefore collect the recently announced stock dividends associated with them. We are left wondering in what way this is considered to be in the best interests of shareholders. Brilliant, beautiful. He won't say it because he's a gentleman, but I'll say it. Everything they put in their clients' accounts is a security entitlement. It's not backed up by anything. They probably used that bulk stock in various derivatives. They probably lent it out to help in the high frequency day trading, swing trading, and longer term shorting. Those shares are all claimed by the derivative owners, and they have first claim on the collateral. And it's supra, if that's the right word, if Trading 212 goes bankrupt. And it's all Bill Clinton. It's also whoever was in charge at the EU when they changed their rules too. Chairman and CEO Greg McCabe stated, quote, since the 2022 FINRA U3 halt, our shareholders have endured uncertainty unlike anything seen in the public markets. Yet they continue to demonstrate extraordinary patience and resilience. You gotta love them. I love it. Our commitment to our shareholders remains unchanged. We will advocate for them while pursuing transparency. Bravo. We will ask difficult questions. Bravo. Even when answers are not forthcoming, and we will explore every lawful avenue available to protect their ownership rights. Our shareholders deserve nothing less. Beautiful. Well said. I think he's a great man. He'll go down in history. Jack Hamilton, Pat M. It's the only way I can spare change to spend on RT. What did Pat M say? Love repurposing my dividends from other stocks. Buck. Hey, G Diddy, please put me down for another 1K of real time. Yeah. I love it when the big guys add a little bit. I love it when anybody adds, but it's such a confirmation of, and it's a way of taking advantage of what, in my opinion, is this. I think the high frequency trading has disappeared, but it is clearly a quiet period. Yeah, I don't. It's right now we got 3,000 shares bid for at 26.52 and 13,500 shares on the offer at 27.3. We don't see any of that, popping around. I think the high frequency traders have pulled their offers. I think they're sensing something. That doesn't mean they've gone away forever. 51,760 shares. The stock is last trade 27.26, up 0.0076. Congratulations, G Diddy. Now I know we're definitely above 22,748, 22,748,000 shares. Pat M. Jack, I would rather buy more RT than another stock that they take down. LOL. I agree. At least here, the way the Frenchman sees it, as I call Anthropic, it's the same way the negativos that try to get you keeping your money hot and running over to stocks on their radar like COSM. Complete joke stock. Even AME is a complete joke stock. But they want you hot, move. Just get that out of your head. If you want to be a loser for the rest of your life, and I'm not calling any of you losers, but if you want to be a loser in the game of these sub $5 stocks, sub $500 million stocks, just keep listening to them. I really believe Railtown is our exit ramp. Doesn't mean we're gonna be diamond hands and not adjust to things, but they want to break they want to break two parts of my thesis. One is that it's been in a quiet period. They want to break that. So they want you thinking that the company is stalling, hiding something, they're not doing anything right, so that you get nervous. Well, I don't think the evidence is there for that. I really don't. Not when you consider that the 28-man task force started last September. And then I've got 10 minutes or so I better not go on and on. I just don't think the timeline backs that up. Let me keep going. Volstoy King says, afternoon, everyone. Ricky says, congratulations, Pat M. Volstoy King says, happy trading. Guys, if you want to trade like this guy, this isn't the channel. I want you to get away from this. He is congratulating himself that a bloody piece of crap stock is up 18% from 17 cents when he mentioned it to you. He didn't say buy it. He said it was on his radar. He did not say buy it. So would you have made money? Would you sell it now? And then Oxford is up 70% since mentioning it 2 days ago. Guys, you got to go with Tolstoy King. He's got a hot hand. Go with him. Hot, hot, hot. Move, move, move. When he says something, it goes up. Never suggested leaving your Railtown position. Hope y'all made some dollars. Bull crap. You said it was on your radar. That's all you said. I'm sorry. I got to call you out. And I will state right here, if people have money, they should buy Railtown. I added a stock finally called Total Metals, TTTMF. Why? Because it's an area I understand. I know they're not going to take toxic financing. Well, nobody knows anything for sure, but they don't intend to. And they're going to start their drilling program. So it's a fundamental story that gives people a chance maybe to get distracted a little bit while they hold on to Railtown. Trading off of these charts from one stock, nobody knows what they do to the other. Do you know what crap COSM is? You don't even know the fundamentals. Drives me crazy. Ricky, congratulations, G Diddy. That's nice of you, Ricky. HD Michael, listening from Mexico. I'm Yellows at the, I don't know how to pronounce that. Joya Gran Parisio. I got killed in GDC, William. I will never listen to him again. Is it his fault? Or is it who he listened to? I don't know. I tend to fall on the category that he was too trusting of the guy or guys he was listening to. I did a bunch of research on GDC. I don't think I showed it to anybody. So maybe I'll do that tomorrow. I'll show you what I did. Not so much to, dance around on somebody else's loss, but to just show the tricks they use. I've really gotten to the point believing, and I don't know if Ham's part of it, but I've always believed he's not part of it. But the whole point of these promotional stocks, these manipulated stocks, is they need us to keep buying, driving it up and holding for big targets while they do the manipulations. I think Finger's going through that right now, and I think Nixie's going through that. And I'm pretty darn sure Ham would never recommend Nixie because that's a Brent Sun concoction. But I don't now see any difference between Brent Sun and Martin Shen. They both have signed toxic financings multiple times. So they're just the same people. So Volstoy King added 1,000 shares at 27 cents. Still a good buy. I appreciate the confirmation of that. I call out that Starla, didn't even read the charts. She just sensed a story, and she built a position that I think has a chance to be a $1 million position or more, frankly, as long as she doesn't turn it into hot money, listening to your day trading chart-led stories. And I get my experience with charts with tire tracks all over my back. And I didn't even have the fun. So you're young, you're bought into the financialization, and you tell us 2 stocks out of all your screening, and you want rah, hey, attaboy, whatever. People will lose money following you. And as soon as one chart doesn't work, you'll say, oh, you should have taken it off the table. I did. Got to do your own due diligence. It's a worthless way of investing because it's not investing. It's literally gambling. That's my opinion. Ricky Brogan, HD Miko. At the time I was in Finger and other ham stocks, I didn't know he had a record. Yes, he had to. Oh, I don't want to read that out. But I'll leave it up long enough so people can, because I think Ricky's point of view should be heard. Nixie's now $1.50. It's breaking under $1.50. Finger is in the green. Don't get fooled by it. Very rapidly, Railtown and Finger are going to go 1 for 1. You can still get a little bit. If you sell your Finger, you get a little. 1 unit of Finger buys you more than 1 unit of Railtown. That's going to change soon, in my judgment. It's not because I'm looking at a chart. It's because I think the timing fundamentally is starting to go in our favor. But as you know, my timing's been wrong before, and it can be wrong again. But I just think that's the price we pay for being in a fundamental story before anybody else recognizes it. The other thing that the day traders want you to disbelieve is that there's anything there at Railtown at all. And so that's a thesis that has to be proven up. But by the time it's proven, I believe the pricing on the stock will change almost immediately. It could change in one day, but maybe it takes a week. I've seen it both ways. But as soon as the computers particularly start recognizing what all of us have done a year's worth of due diligence putting together, all of you have. I really think all of you are seasoned. I hate that word. I know it's cornball, but you're essentially seasoned institutional investors. At least you're seasoned accredited. You may not be accredited yet, but you're really doing your due diligence. Or okay, Railtown just closed at 27.26. It's at 51,760. I'll just say one other thing. I don't know if Tolstoy King's trying to do this, but these day trader guys, they try to woo you with friendship. They try to woo you with negative so that you start distrusting a guy like me. Like I don't look at filings, which is, I mean, filings do go on forever and ever. So, they might find something 5 years ago that I didn't see, but I've pretty much looked at every filing as it relates to Railtown. And I've shown them all to you, much to your frustration. But what their main goal is after Railtown goes up, because Tolstoy King knows that we have almost 23 million shares. He knows if that goes to $10, he's got some fodder for his engine. At $10, he's got over $200 million. At $20, he's got over $400 million. And if he can convince you he was in there with you, build a layer of trust, when he tells you the next story, you can go move it for him. And then when a CEO comes to him, they can give him, like they give Dan Borders, 15 grand a day, or they give Frank Benedetto 15 grand a month and free to trade stock. Look at all the ones Benedetto brought you. Good gosh, all of them. By the way, I met Benedetto once, I think. Now I'm confusing him with Borders. It's not a bright guy. Not a bright guy. It's just a lughead. Drinks, smokes, bullies. But he's got this one pitch down. Well, that's fine. The people that do well in life often are not the most, trapped in constantly thinking and questioning and all that. So that's fine. But so he may not get it. That's possible too. But it's you guys they want. They have the computers if they're doing a buy side run. They definitely are tied in the computers on the sell side constantly. But what do they need? They need human beings to go through it. Soylent Green is people. Soylent Green is people. They need you to turn potential energy into kinetic energy so they can turn on the shearing machines at first, and they'll shear you as long as you're standing there. They'll even shear you while your hair is growing, while your wool is growing. But if it's worth it at some point, they'll take that thing out of the No Man is Old Enough for Tomorrow or whatever movie, Old Men for Old Countries movie. They'll put it against your head and down you go. And then they'll just go find another audience to befriend. Just be careful. just be careful. Once you start making money, everyone here, you're a completely different class of investor, even if you don't feel so. It's going to be my job to enforce that on you. And I'm not doing it out of greed. I do want to build something with as many of you as want to join. But if you don't join, you don't join. That's fine. But it's true that you're going to become high net worth investors, in my opinion. I guess I shouldn't say it's true, and it's my opinion at the same time. But I'm highly confident that you'll be high net worth investors, and you're in a whole different category. You don't have to be seduced by the charm boys. You need to start thinking of yourself as people who inherit wealth do. Live on the principal. Live on the income. Don't touch the principal. But there's ways you can enhance the principal too. But you just, if you've got 100,000 shares, it goes to 25. I'm not saying in a week. And if it squeezes, that's where we'll have to talk. I don't want it to squeeze. But man, I just hope each of us can build a portfolio with that, or keep it there, or maybe I'll do some of it. We'll have deal flow, but that you just keep that for at least a year as it's coming through your statements and on your screen. So you start thinking of yourself as a millionaire. The other thing is hush your mouth. Don't tell anybody. Most people are jealous, and it's like when you start dating the high school homecoming queen, or the head cheerleader. People come in, try to take her away, try to break it up. I don't know what it is. Some sort of little gremlins in people's head and hearts. Just don't talk to anybody. Don't talk to anybody. Anyway, let's keep going on. Ward Richardson. It sounds like Claude wants to get in the ring with you and duke it out. I know he's such a Frenchman, but you know what? He does a good job. If I can convince him, I can convince anybody. But they're all, at the end of the day, they're just pattern recognizers for now. And they just process a lot of information very quickly. I don't know that they learn it, although Claude seems to learn some things. Yeah, that's all going to change. And so when I read stuff to you, I think it's important to remember, one, I can have an effect on the output by my questions, which is why I've taken the approach of throwing in some negatives with my question. But the other thing is, it doesn't mean their analysis is correct. I think one thing the human brain can do, still they can't. But I have a brother who's an attorney. He still has his sense of humor, and I think he should have been a journalist. He has tremendous powers of observation, with the ability to bring the reader in, or the listener into it. But he became an attorney. He wanted to get married and have kids. And he's a great father, great wife, great kids, and a dog. And then my sister's an attorney. And I used to be able to talk with my sister about almost anything. But now, I mean, she still reads the Post and the New York Times. So that's part of it. But, or she listens to, that. But the other part is, as an attorney, You only can consider things that are entered into evidence. Anything else is speculative. Anything else is a conspiracy theory. And I think what these large language models can't see, it answers itself, is they can't see what isn't there. And human beings can connect coincidences. Large language models look for patterns. That's a different thing. That's a different thing. And I mean, it's good to be corrected because you can get caught up in your own story. No question about that. No question about that. And I've done that in the past. But on the other hand, until testable parts of your thesis are contradicted, I think just time isn't enough to kill your story. That's nothing has happened in Railtown's story that has condemned it. In fact, I think it's gotten much, much bigger. Anyway, I've probably got to finish in about 5-10 minutes. Buckeye, Ward, my money is on not against a young Frenchman. Ward Richardson, Buckeye, same here. G. Diddy, Ricky Brogan, thank you. Oh, God, I'll give him attention, but please, news doesn't matter. News is part of the hype cycle. COSM, I'm not going to even show you the chart. COSM was rigged before, it's rigged again. I don't know what this Oxbow incident is. One metric I follow is retail sentiment. Guys, retail sentiment is hogwash. It's hogwash. You don't want to follow retail sentiment unless you're a day trader. You get out in front of it. Look, this guy here, all he tries to do is play momentum. After the herd of cows gets in motion, he gets in front of it, gets carried down a bit or up a bit, and then he gets out. It's not a thing to do. Well, anyway, I'm not going to read these out. You can read it. You can read it. And you can read it. It's end of day. We've got Railtown. Let's see what let's just focus on Railtown and Total Metals, which I think is a screaming buy. 26.75 on the bid. Ask is 29.9. Of course, they expanded a little after the close, maybe, but it was 51,760 shares. It closed up almost 3%. Let's just look at Canada and see what happened there. Well, it closed up 1.3% in Canada. Closed at 39 cents in Canada. So I forget who we were talking to. Was it T. Alex or was it somebody else that wanted to buy more at 32? Is that the right 33? And I got it's not coming back. Well, I mean, anything can happen, but it looks like, because you went back in and bought, which I give you great credit for. The bid right now is 31,000 shares on the bid in Canada. Of course, it's not trading. That's 0.375 bid price. Ask 39 cents. And to be fair, there's 24,000 shares on offer. I'm sure those don't hold right now because it's closed. Closed at 39 cents again. The volume 124,382. I'm going to sign off in 2 minutes. No news today. A new Form 7 progress report should come. The last one was June 9th, then May 9th. So we're getting close to July 9th. No setter filing. Okay. And let's go back to look, guys, if you want a day trade or swing trade, I'm sure a guy like Tolstoy King is a place to go. I just think you're going to lose your money. So it's nothing personal. This is the way to change your account. Hours of 1612, but the ask is still 19.8. The stock traded as high as 1734. The volume today, nothing. 638 shares. 638 shares. This is the stock primed, I think, for a double or a triple. I do think in this case, you should take the opportunity to sell half or sell a third, get your money off. Why? Because it's mining. It can be volatile. It's gold, which can be volatile. And the biggest one of all is they'll do a financing at some unpredictable point. So in the meantime, though, I think it's a hell of a way to build a position for free if this, which I expect is their July drilling is going to be successful and be company changing. That's my opinion on my read, and it's their raison d'etre. I also think it leads to a buyout. So anyway, let me just see. No more comments here. It's 4:16. I went over NextBridge. And I'll just finish. I commend HD Miko for acknowledging, not that it makes me feel good at all, but it shows he's a man and has a what's the word, self-effacing approach, which I respect. But just as just to tell people, GDC closed down 42 cents today. Unbelievable. $2. They're going to bring it down under $1. But $2, I can't even do the arithmetic in my head. It's well below a penny, I think. We'll figure that out some other day. I hate it. I hate that. The 52-week range, $1.85. You know what the high is for 52 weeks on GDC? $2,478. It's just incredible. All right, peace to everyone. I look forward to getting together tomorrow. Happy 4th of July. I went down there. I'll try to show you some of the fireworks. And I think our time might be now from July to mid-August. Unfortunately, from then till September, everybody's going to be on vacation. I can't believe I'm saying the same thing a year later. But I think we have a good 4 to 6 weeks ahead of us. And let's be observant. Peace.